In today's model game, we are going to take a look at a rapid game of Magnus Carlsen. It was played in the Pro Chess League in 2017. And the topic will be the same endgame variation that we already started to examine a little bit in the previous video. So d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, takes, bishop g5, c6, e3, and bishop f5. So Carlsen, of course, played bishop f3, bishop g6, and then after trading on f6, we arrived into this position. So knight f3, knight d7, this is a completely fine move, knight h4. And here, what we saw in the previous game, bishop e7 is really important and really precise, and probably the only move which makes this line kind of playable. So the idea once again is twofold, that on knight post knight e2, so it's mainly aimed against this knight e2, knight g3, because knight e2 there is f5 as we saw, but also if white is trying to play something radical like f4 and immediately challenge this bishop once again, black can just play f5, and white is not ready to attack the pawn with bishop d3 because the knight is hanging on h4. Instead, in this game, black went knight b6, which is a very logical move, but even though it's an endgame, it still can be pretty concrete, I would say. So what is the idea of knight b6? As it was already discussed in previous videos, that the best square for the knight is knight c8 via knight c8, knight d6. So this d6 square is really nice. So black just wants to put the knight there, but Carlsen immediately takes advantage that black did not play this very important bishop e7, and he played f4 here, which I would say, I mean, it's too hard to say that it refutes the line for black, but it's just so tough after this. So basically the bishop is having immediate problems because of f5. So for example, if let's just play some knight c8, then f5 is coming, and then if bishop to h5, then h3 is coming, and this g4 is going to trap the bishop. So there is no time for knight c8. h6 is not much better. It simply allows f5, bishop h7, and now very important move g4, basically to build this wall with the pawns. Also h3 is coming next, and this bishop is not going to come out in this game anymore, so only g4 and f5 pawns make sure that we are playing this game up a piece, practically speaking. So h6 is also not good. In the game f5 was played, which is the most common move, I believe, in this position, but probably the best move is h5. So it it prevents this caging of the bishop by f5, bishop h7, because now there is no g4. So that's the idea, and then the bishop can come like h6, g5. So actually it's not so good to to try to play this h3, g4, because then we can even end up in trouble here. But in any way, so this h5 once again I believe is the best move, and it will be probably the topic of the next video, but it will be a different game. So in this one, black played f5, so stopping our f5 thread this way. But of course, with this, he closed the bishop, and now you can see that you can see and understand the main difference, that why bishop e7 is so important, because if the bishop is on e7, then this f5 move is coming with the tempo, so we have to react with the h4 knight. We don't have time for the move what Carlsen played in this game, but is bishop d3, immediately targeting this pawn, and it's impossible to protect it. Of course, the game is not over at this moment, so black has only one move to avoid material loss, and that's knight to c4. So attacking on e3 and attacking on b2. And if you play something very passive like knight d1, saying that anyways we are going to take on f5, that's actually not true, because black is just in time to protect with knight d6. So on knight c4, Carlsen took, d takes c4, and king f2. So let's see what happened in the position. So we managed to trade the bishop for a knight. And given that the position is very close, and given that by every trade of the minor pieces, this bishop on g6, its significance that it's so horrible, it's getting bigger, then it's just an amazing trade. And also this c4 pawn is a potential target for white. So basically knights against bishops in a close position, I mean that's already sounds pretty good, and if you combine it with the advantage of the pawn structure, then it's already quite a significant edge for white. So c5 was played in this game, which made it a little bit easier for Carlsen, I would say, but yeah, really tough position for black anyways. Long castle is the most common move, I believe, here, but I like a4 for white in this position. So the idea is just to prevent pawn to b5. So the c4 pawn is very hard to protect. And okay, next idea for white is probably with the h rook to c1, I would say. So h rook to c1, and then we play knight e2, not only attacking the c4 pawn, but also in many cases going to g3 and to attack on f5. Very, very tough for black to protect the pawns here. It's really bad position. So instead black played c5, which is in some sense logical, trying to open the position for the bishops. But yeah, black is also behind in development, and this c5 is giving some new squares for the c3 knight also. So it did not solve the problems at all. So Carlsen played rook d1, rook c8, and simply rook c1. So basically he's very happy if black is taking on d4, he's just recapturing with the rook. So rook is already attacking on c4, but it can go to d5 and attack f5 as well. Black played bishop e7, knight f3, and bishop h5. Okay, so at least black is able to trade off that horrible bishop, but okay, once that bishop is gone, the weakness of this f5 pawn is even more visible. So basically if white is going to attack it with the knight or with the rook, it's probably gone, and also c4 pawn is not going to survive for long. So here there are different good options for white. Once again, it was a rapid game, so white had some time, I assume, to figure out the best way. I mean, he played knight d5, which is good. If you want to play very concrete, that was actually also good. So that means taking on c5. So if the bishop takes, then the rook simply can come to d5 and pick up this pawn. So probably rook takes is best, but the rook is still coming to d5. So the point is that after the trading the rook, the c4 pawn is weak. So for example, knight rook d5, knight d5, b5, and knight d4. So now both pawns are hanging and black's position is collapsing. So this was a good option, and also, but I would say that if the position is not like that clearly winning, then also a4 is a smart move to include, because it just stops b5 for all, isolating c4 pawn, and bishop f3 is once again not helping black that much. I mean, anytime we take and go rook d5, huge problems with the f5 pawn. Carlsen instead went knight d5. It's also good, but I don't know. I wouldn't have allowed this b5. Again, it's not gonna change much, but white has to show a little bit of a technique here. So he played b3. I mean, this is also pretty nice, you know, undermining that pawn, and now the c5 pawn can be a problem. So cb3 was played. That's basically at least a completely lost position. Better was to take on d4. And actually here white has to take with ed4. So that kind of scenario I would have preferred to avoid. But even after this ed4, so there is a threat of rook e1. If bishop moves, then simply we again can give just a check, king goes, and knight e3. So basically again c4 and f5 is under attack. So just with very simple moves, white is achieving a decisive advantage. And if king goes out from the pin, then we can just take, and let's say rook e1. And now the problem is that not only this knight e3 is an idea, but the bishop has to guard f6. And also this knight is coming with check to e5, so the position is again pretty bad for black. So yeah, in the game cb3 was played, but after ab, so black tried to save the pawn like this, but yeah, so I think it's a good moment to highlight the pawn structures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawn islands for black against 1 pawn island. So it's yes, it's not a recipe for success, I would say. So like all pawns are, you know, even though don't let it trick you that f pawns are on the same file. I mean, they cannot protect each other, so they count as separate islands. And yeah, I mean, basically white can just collect everything one by one. So let's see how the game went. Rook a1, bishop f3, king f3, bishop d6. So first pawn was very easy. Rook a7, castle, rook c1. So now he's going for the second one. Rook c6, rook b7, rook d8. And here he played rook c2, which is completely fine. I mean, okay, so let's play rook c2. I believe that's okay. Bishop f8, rook b5, king g6. And here, you know, there are normally two strategies against isolated pawns, either to blockade it, what we did now, and attack. So going around with the knight to g3 looks good. And it is good indeed. But in another way, what is really also nice is just to play something like h3. Let's say black plays something with the king and play g4. So by trading that f5 pawn, then we have basically this mass of pawns in the center that we can just push forward, and you know, one extra pawn with c4 falling this is more than enough to win the game. So in this way, it was also quite thematic way, I would say. So I believe it definitely should have been g4, but white is going for. But he went for a more concrete idea, which in rapid games, you know, can be very effective. So he went for this knight maneuver to g3, which also very logical. But knight e2, rook c8, knight g3, and rook f6. So black managed to hold the f5 pawn like this. And again, now you know, it would be just good. Okay, say that okay, black would defend against this immediate attack on f5. So just switch to this h3 g4, create the 3 against 1 in the center or 4 against 1, and just push the pawns there. He went for e4. I don't like it that much. Of course, it's winning, but you know, it a little bit separates our pawns. It would have been, I think, easier to keep the pawns connected, but okay, objectively speaking, the advantage was too big for this to matter. But I mean, in general terms, it would have been better, I guess. So rook f5 was played, and now d5. highlighting the awkward place of the rook, and now g4 is a threat. So black played h5, g3, rook d8, rook d2, bishop g7, gave a check, king h7, d6. Yeah, so basically also very comfortable win, king g2, rook d3. So he traded and then rook c5, so the rook will be amazing on d5, protecting the passed pawn and collecting this one. So king g6 and extremely classy move from Carlsen here. So rook d5 would be, sorry, of course, very good move already, but first he gives a check, forces the king to the verse square, and then plays rook d5. And after bishop f8, I'm almost 100% sure that rook d3 is good enough to win, but why to allow some f5 counterplay and then losing the d6 pawn? He just plays f5, giving no chances. Rook e8, king f3, rook d8, he took the pawn, and black resigned. I mean, we can promote the d pawn, push h3, g4, king f4 forward, so there is no chance for black to save the possession. So in any case, the main point of this game was to show that if black is playing this knight b6, then f4 idea is very strong because he's not in time to attack the knight on h4 with f5. So overall, it's better to play h5. It's more stubborn defense, and in the next model game, I will, at least that's my plan, to show via a nice game that how to play against that setup. So thanks for watching this video, and see you very soon.